Alright, back at Kentucky Dragway today. There's the concession stand. There's the strip, the tower. I guess they've been shut down for about an hour and a half due to an oil spill. But I put the Radial Pros at 16 pounds. I loaded the Nitrous tune-up in it. And I got an alignment done on the car. The guy said I had it really close. But it's all aligned now, front and back, with the new adjustable lower control arms, pinion set at -2. And we're going to give the Nitrous a test before the LTX Shootout, see how it does. It's really packed today. I don't know if you can see the staging lanes over there. But I mean, all the staging lanes are full, and they're even out into the road over there. It's hard to see, but yeah, they're backed up into the road. Yeah, I'm gonna let once the racing starts, let the line die back down, get the bottle heated up, purge it with a wrench at the solenoid because I don't have a purge yet, and see what it'll do. Try to run a 9, or at least beat Christopher's 10.24. Nah. The DA is 2800. I just checked it. Well, the first attempt sucked. The fuel solenoid came on, but the nitrous solenoid did not come on, so I'm trying to figure that out. It just flooded it all the way down the track. Blah, 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 blah.
How'd that go?
Blah, 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 blah.
There, it just backfired and stalled out. Also, when we got the car back around to check everything, I had a little intake running from the intake, the throttle body, all the way down to the fog light hole with a velocity stack down there, and it blew that intake into pieces. I mean, it just shredded it. So we took all that intake stuff off, but there was still the metal tube in front of the throttle body with the shark nozzle for the nitrous to spray directly down into the throttle body, and all the piece that blew apart, the plastic piece that was going down to the fog light hole, we just took all that off. So it was just throttle body, the rubber piece, and then a tube, and the tube had the idle air control, the air intake temperature in it, and then the fogger, shark nozzle fogger for the nitrous, and we give it another try. And it did it again. It just backfired and stalled out. And it actually caught on fire this time. And we had to raise the hood, and the track guy, he ran over there and stuck his hat down in that metal tube and smothered it out. But something I forgot to mention, that last pass, after it stalled out on the line, I started it back up, and I took off, and it was running good, so I hit the nitrous as it was going, and man, it ran faster than it ever ran. So it's just doing it off the line for some reason, but I don't know.
Well, testing the nitrous after the new head install didn't go so well. The first pass, it felt like the car was, it was flooding itself out. The second pass, nitrous backfired and quit right on the line. But then I started it back up and I eased into the throttle, and I've never felt that car go that fast. I mean, it went ridiculously fast. It's never felt that fast. So I come back around and we try a third pass. Well, on the second pass, the nitrous backfire blew my intake. I don't know if you guys see my other videos, but I had like a little ram air thing down there to the fog light coming up to here, and I mean, it shredded it when it nitrous backfired that first time, the second pass, the first time it nitrous backfired. So we took all that off, and I just stuck it down in there because it's zip tied down in there. And we tried a third pass, and nitrous backfired on the line and caught on fire down inside here. We had to pop the hood, and the race guy that runs the gate, he stuck his hat down in there and smothered it out. But today we're going to figure out what's going on with it. I think I'm going to check the fuel pressure, because I've been smelling more gas smell than I should be smelling, and I think my regulators went bad. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a fuel pressure gauge up to it and see what started up and see what it reads. Alright, I hooked the fuel pressure gauge up to it. I got the little fitting on it to where I can just screw it in right on that AN fitting. But it was 42, 44 at idle and 55 at when I unhooked the vacuum, which simulates, unhook the vacuum off the fuel pressure regulator, which simulates wide open throttle, and it went to 55, and that's what I've got it set at, and that's what it was tuned at. Sorry about that. But the reason for that was the only E85 jets I could find for this kit for a 200 shot was for 55 pounds of fuel pressure. So that's what we set it at, and that's what it was actually dyno tuned at. So the fuel pressure regulator is still where it was when it was dyno tuned, and that was the dyno tune that we used, that we had. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But let's check a few more things. I'm going to make sure I had the right jets in there. I don't ever remember taking them out since the last time I sprayed it, but who knows. And then I'm going to check the flow of the fuel through the nozzle and see what that looks like. Look at that. The fire that caught inside there melted my sensor. Intake air temperature. Let's get another one of those for sure.
So at idle, it was around, I don't know, 40, 46, 48. And then when you give it gas, these regulators, they work off of vacuum. So this car actually has less vacuum at idle than it does at cruise. So when you're cruising, the fuel pressure does come down from idle, but then when you rev it up and hit wide open throttle, it shoots back up. So everything was working like it should here.
Well, I was checking my throttle body gasket. I think I found the problem. Just on accident, I happened to look down there. I forgot all about that. Look at that. Huge vacuum leak. I had a cap on that and it popped off. Don't know why it popped off, but it's popped off. See if I can find a tighter one that'll fit that. Alright. I put a 1/4 inch pop plug in there with some thread tape. So that shouldn't be a problem no more. You know what? On motor, with the tune that it was dynoed into, it was hesitating off the line. So I added fuel and that helped, but I know what, I put an odd color cap on that thing before. And I found it laying in the garage. Or carport, whatever you want to call that thing. I found it laying in there. And so I'm pretty sure. I was wondering why this car runs a DA corrected 1108. And that's about where we was at after taking all that off and even having the heads milled more. So I mean, I should have picked up a little bit more, and I was wondering why the car didn't. I believe that's been off the whole time since I've done the head gaskets. I was wondering why I had to add fuel to the tune. But yeah, well, it's fixed now. Obviously on Nitrous, it really showed its ugly face, it not being there. But I was checking everything and I was like, man, there's nothing wrong. The fuel pressure is good. The solenoids are working. The spark plugs look good. I mean, everything I could think of to look at. And I thought, well, let's take the throttle body off, because the throttle bodies, they do like to blow right around here. So I took the throttle body off to see if the gasket had blown, and it ripped apart when I took it off because I couldn't really tell. But I forgot all about that, and I just looked down there and I noticed that there wasn't a cap on that. And I'll show you which cap I had on it if I can find it. Because it was the only cap I had of that color. I guess the big ones in the box that I had, they were different colors. I think I put it in here. Maybe. It was a brown cap. All the rest of my caps are either black or gray, as you can see. And the one I had on it was like a brownish color. I don't see it in there. Yeah. I said it somewhere. I know I did. But anyway, here's what was in there. And I had one of them plug caps on there. It was a brown one. And I found it laying here, and I set it up here somewhere. And how I know it was that one was because that was the only brown one I had. Well, I don't know where that thing went. Oh well. Anyway, I found it laying here. I've set it somewhere. I don't know where I've set it. But yeah, since it was in the garage, it must have fell off when I did the heads, and it must have been like that for a while, because sometimes the car, it would idle up to 2,000, 2,500 RPM, and then I guess the computer would correct itself. Correct it by itself. I don't know, then it idle back down, but I don't know where I put that. But anyway, I got a new gasket in there, 58 millimeter. So we're going to change all the gaskets. Another spot I noticed was leaking was here, where I had the middle screw out to put the throttle body proton kit, and then I was just using the 2 outer screws. You could tell where it was leaking right here because all this was wet. So what I'm gonna do next time is I'm gonna put that middle screw in, then I'm gonna get a longer bolt, and then that way I can use a nut to hold the plate down, and then I can use 2 nuts inside there, and the other nut and the bolt will hold the proton kit up. So I'll have to go get one of those, but let's go ahead and put the gasket and put that back on there. Okay, so that gasket, it only goes on one way. You got this bolt hole that's lower than the rest of them, and same thing right there. So it goes on like that, and that hole goes in the bottom for the auto air control passage. So we'll go ahead and get that back on the car. Alright, I got it all back on there. And just a few areas you want to check. Make sure you're all the way on at the bottom of your boot that goes on your throttle body. So we can get the camera down there a little. Yeah. Looks like it's all the way on to me. And I tighten these bolts up in a crisscross pattern. Barely tighten that one, barely tighten that one, barely tighten that one down there, barely tighten that one. And I want another round and another round. Don't get too crazy with those, because those, they barely go back up in here, probably about that far, and that's aluminum. So I just use a 1/4 inch socket or 1/4 inch ratchet, so I can't put too much pressure on it, but it's on there. And I put my throttle cable back on. Don't forget to put your idle air control plug in and your throttle position sensor. Nope, don't have enough room. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's on there. Everything looks good. So now I'm going to start it up and rev it up a little bit. Make sure that it's doesn't have that little hesitation when you first rev on the throttle. But it all should be good now. I'm going to have to get, like I mentioned before, I'm just going to get a longer bolt there with 2 nuts. A nut on the bottom to hold that down, and then a nut above that to go between the bolt and the nut for the bracket for that. So we can put that back on our chair like so. So that's not just flopping around, but I'm gonna go start it up and see how it acts. So it seemed to act better with a little bit of tuning adjustments. So we'll take it to the LTX Shootout and see what it does. Hopefully it acts right.